Your resume has the right sections and solid experience, but it's not getting interviews. Let me show you how I helped one student 5x their interview rate with just one simple change. We had a student, a sophomore in college, who wanted to land a finance internship, and it was 8 weeks before the summer started. He had applied to dozens of applications with no success, not even an interview. Their resume looked fine on the surface, good formatting, clean sections, decent experience, but still no traction from recruiters. It just wasn't getting any bites. And after reading through the resume a little bit deeper, it's pretty clear why. By the way, if you want me to review your resume live and get feedback like this, we do that for free on YouTube live streams. Just check out the first link in the description below to submit yours. Every bullet point sounded like a job description. Sounded like it was written by their manager and just a list of tasks that you or I or anybody else in that role needed to do and could have done. These bullet points didn't clearly articulate the unique value that our student provided in the role. It was literally as if you just copy and pasted the job description. Most resumes just describe what you were told to do, not what you actually accomplished. And this is a real switch in how you should be viewing your bullet points in a resume. For example, our student had the following bullet under a volunteer position that he had on his resume. Distribute promotional flyers to raise awareness of local food drives, fostering community engagement. If you think about it, yes, that is a fair bullet point because it explains exactly what he did. But when you evaluate your bullet points in the lens of a recruiter, reading that sentence back tells them nothing about what you as an individual did that makes you stand out from anybody else doing that same role. To figure out if your bullets are actually making impact and getting that across and conveying that to the reader, you have to ask yourself a question. Can anybody else copy and paste this exact bullet point and put it on their resume? If the answer is yes, then it likely is because it just sounds like the exact job description of what you were told to do and does not reflect your unique accomplishments. That's impact. That's what recruiters want to see. We reformatted this bullet point to read, increasing community engagement by distributing promotional flyers, contributing to an 83.3% rise in food drive participation. Now that's real impact. It's quantifiable. There's metrics behind it, and nobody else can copy and paste that same exact bullet. This gave our student a unique bullet point that showed real impact that tells recruiters, hey, I did this when I was in this role and I can do it for your company too, which is really what they want to know at the end of the day. What can you do for the company? Why should we hire you? Recruiters want to know what makes you the right person for the role and why you will provide more value than the next person. Now moving on to the structure, which is very important. Every bullet point should answer, what did I do and what happened because of it? And it's very simple to do this. All you have to do is refer back to the STAR framework that you use when interviewing. If you don't already know, STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. And it's a really good framework for answering behavioral questions in interviews because it gives you a clear path to follow and to be able to share a real story with an interviewer that they can follow and they can understand and recognize the impact that you had during an experience that you're sharing. Now, taking it back to the resume, your bullet points should be the A and the R of the STAR method. So the action and the result. And really that just boils down to the A being the action. You want to start off your bullet point with a strong action verb and then kind of detail what role you played in an experience, and then the result. And another thing that I like to add on is numbers to quantify when possible. So you want to start with a strong action verb, have results that followed, and quantify with numbers where possible. And the revised bullet point that I shared earlier does this beautifully. Increasing community engagement by distributing promotional flyers is the action verb. And that's where most bullet points stop. You just display the action, which is what everybody else in that same role did. But the real sauce is where you bring in the result of what you individually did, contributing to an 83.3% rise in food drive participation, which is numbers to quantify as well. While the before and after bullet points might seem similar in the message that they're getting across, the latter does so much more clearly and much more effectively than the former because of how specific it is, and especially specific to the student who is utilizing the bullet point, which is all the recruiter cares about at the end of the day. They don't care what your fancy title or experience was at some big name internship that you had. They care about what you actually contributed to the team and how you can replicate that for the role that they're hiring for. And a pro tip for figuring out how to quantify some of your impact, because you don't necessarily know the exact metrics of all of these things all the time, and our student didn't know either. So we asked a series of questions. Hey, how many participants did you guys have the very first year? He said when they started, they had about 100 people who donated to the food bank. And after the couple years of running these ad campaigns and posting flyers around the community, they had increased participation to over 180 volunteers, kind of backing into that number of 83.3% of increased engagement due to the flyers. And the final thing I want to leave you with is that storytelling isn't just for the interviews. It starts with the resume. The powerful thing about having all of your bullet points align with the A and the R of the STAR method is that once you have a bullet point written, you have half of your interview answer. The next time our student gets asked a behavioral question about how they impacted a team and drove results, they already have half their answer right there, along with a quantifiable number to include in their story to provide their impact and value. All they have to do is set up the situation and the task, and that's a wrap. A clean-cut and well-plated interview answer, all because so much time, energy, attention, and detail was spent on the front end creating the bullet points on the resume. If you're done applying into the void and want real structure and mentorship to land your first internship in finance, our 6-week program is built exactly for students like you. If that's something you're interested in, apply below. Let's cook. We'll see you over there.